Hello, fellow gamers. Welcome to GameVault HQ. Today, we're diving into the world of real-time tactics with a deep dive into the classic game, Joint Task Force, or JTF. Released in 2006 by HD Publishing and Mythos Entertainment, this game brought a fresh and realistic approach to the strategy genre, offering players an immersive experience of modern military operations. In this tribute, we'll explore what made JTF stand out, its innovative gameplay mechanics, engaging storyline, and the impact it had on the gaming community. So, let's gear up and get started. Joint Task Force wasn't just another RTS game. It was a tactical masterpiece that redefined how we think about strategy games. Unlike traditional RTS games where you focus on building bases and massing armies, JTF emphasized tactical maneuvers and the strategic use of limited resources. This shift in focus required players to think more like military commanders, making decisions that could mean the difference between victory and defeat. One of the standout features of JTF was its commitment to realism. The developers went to great lengths to ensure that the battlefield dynamics were as lifelike as possible. This included realistic physics, destructible environments, and the impact of terrain on unit movement and line of sight. Players had to consider factors like cover, elevation, and the type of units they were deploying, all of which added a layer of depth and authenticity rarely seen in other games at the time. The core premise of the game revolved around leading a multinational coalition force, known as the Joint Task Force, into various conflict zones around the world. This multinational aspect wasn't just a narrative gimmick. It was deeply integrated into the gameplay. Players had access to a diverse array of units from different countries, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. This required a nuanced understanding of how to best utilize these units in concert, reflecting the complexities of real-world coalition operations. JTF's single-player campaign was a significant draw for many players. Set in the near future, the campaign took players through a series of missions in politically volatile regions such as the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Balkans. The storyline was rich with geopolitical intrigue, offering a compelling narrative that kept players engaged from start to finish. Central to the game's story were its characters, particularly the commanders leading the Joint Task Force. These characters were more than just avatars for the player. They had distinct personalities, backgrounds, and motivations that were revealed through in-game cutscenes and dialogue. This added a human element to the game, making the stakes feel personal and the missions more impactful. JTF also set itself apart by incorporating ethical dilemmas into its missions. Players often found themselves faced with difficult choices, such as balancing the need to achieve military objectives with the imperative to minimize civilian casualties. These moral quandaries added a layer of complexity to the game, forcing players to think critically about the consequences of their actions. Beyond its realistic approach and engaging story, JTF introduced several innovative gameplay mechanics that helped it stand out in a crowded market. One of the game's most impressive features was its dynamic weather and day-night cycles. Weather conditions such as rain, fog, and sandstorms could drastically affect visibility and unit performance, while the transition from day to night required players to adapt their strategies accordingly. These environmental factors added an additional layer of challenge and realism, making each mission feel unique. The game's AI was another highlight. Enemy forces in JTF were not mere cannon fodder. They employed sophisticated tactics and reacted intelligently to the player's actions. This required players to constantly adapt their strategies, keeping the gameplay fresh and engaging. The AI's ability to use cover, coordinate attacks, and exploit player weaknesses made for a challenging and rewarding experience. In JTF, success was not just about winning battles but also about managing resources effectively. Players had to make strategic decisions about where to allocate their limited funds, whether to call in reinforcements, repair damaged units, or purchase new equipment. This aspect of resource management added a strategic layer to the game, making it more than just a tactical combat simulator. While the single-player campaign was a significant draw, JTF also offered robust multiplayer options. Players could compete against each other or team up in cooperative missions, testing their tactical skills against human opponents. The game's multiplayer mode extended its lifespan significantly, fostering a dedicated community of players who shared strategies, created custom scenarios, and organized tournaments. The JTF community was known for its creativity and enthusiasm. Players created a wealth of custom content, including new missions, units, and even total conversion mods that transformed the game into entirely new experiences. This level of community engagement not only kept the game alive long after its initial release, but also showcased the versatility of its engine and the passion of its fans. Looking back, it's clear that Joint Task Force made a lasting impact on the real-time tactics genre. Its blend of realism, strategic depth, and engaging narrative set a new standard for what RTS games could achieve. While it may not have achieved the same commercial success as some of its contemporaries, its influence can be seen in many of the tactical and strategy games that followed. Many of the mechanics and design philosophies pioneered by JTF can be seen in modern tactical games. The emphasis on realism, the incorporation of ethical dilemmas, and the focus on resource management are all elements that have been adopted and refined by subsequent titles. Games like Company of Heroes, Wargame, and Arma owe a debt to the groundwork laid by JTF. Over the years, JTF has garnered a cult following among strategy enthusiasts. Its unique approach and challenging gameplay have ensured that it remains a beloved title within the community. For many players, it represents a golden era of tactical gaming, a time when innovation and depth were the hallmarks of the genre. As a longtime fan of strategy games, my journey with Joint Task Force began shortly after its release. I remember being immediately struck by its realistic approach and the depth of its gameplay. The thrill of leading a joint task force into battle, making split-second decisions, and grappling with the ethical implications of my actions made for an unforgettable gaming experience. One of my most memorable moments in JTF came during a mission set in the Balkans. My task was to secure a town held by a well-entrenched enemy force. The mission required careful planning and precise execution. I remember meticulously positioning my units, using the terrain to my advantage, and coordinating a multi-pronged assault. The satisfaction of seeing my plan come together, and the town falling under my control, was immense. It was a perfect example of the game's ability to make players feel like true military commanders. Another standout moment was during a mission in the Middle East, where I had to decide whether to risk civilian lives to achieve a strategic objective. The weight of that decision stayed with me long after I completed the mission, highlighting the game's capacity to engage players on an emotional and intellectual level. It was a reminder that war is not just about winning battles but also about the human cost of those battles. Joint Task Force was developed by the Hungarian game studio Mythos Entertainment and published by HD Publishing. Mythos Entertainment, known for its focus on strategy and simulation games, brought a wealth of expertise and passion to the project. The development team aimed to create a game that not only entertained but also challenged players with its realistic depiction of modern warfare. The idea for Joint Task Force stemmed from a desire to create a game that accurately reflected the complexities of contemporary military operations. The developers wanted to move away from the more fantastical elements of many RTS games and instead focus on realism and tactical depth. This ambition led them to incorporate real-world military tactics, modern combat scenarios, and geopolitical themes into the game. The development of Joint Task Force began in the early 2000s. Over the course of several years, the team at Mythos Entertainment worked diligently to bring their vision to life. They conducted extensive research on modern military equipment and tactics, consulting with military experts to ensure accuracy. The game was officially announced in 2005 and released in September 2006. Creating a game with such a high level of realism posed significant challenges. The developers had to balance the need for authenticity with the necessity of making the game accessible and enjoyable for players. This required innovative solutions, such as the dynamic weather system and advanced AI, which helped set JTF apart from other games in the genre. Throughout the development process, the team at Mythos Entertainment collaborated closely with HD Publishing. They also sought feedback from beta testers and the gaming community, making adjustments based on player input. This iterative process ensured that the final product was polished and met the high standards set by the developers. Joint Task Force features a wide range of military units and equipment based on real-world counterparts. The developers included everything from infantry units and tanks to helicopters and drones, each meticulously modeled for authenticity. This attention to detail added to the game's immersive experience. One of the standout features of JTF is its destructible environments. Buildings, bridges, and other structures can be destroyed during combat, impacting the battlefield and requiring players to adapt their strategies. This dynamic element added a layer of realism and unpredictability to the game. The game's storyline was heavily influenced by contemporary geopolitical events. Set in the near future, it explored conflicts in various regions, including the Middle East, Central Asia, and the Balkans. The narrative tackled themes such as terrorism, humanitarian crises, and international diplomacy, making it both engaging and thought-provoking. The AI in Joint Task Force was designed to be highly responsive and challenging. Enemy units used realistic tactics, such as flanking maneuvers and coordinated attacks, forcing players to think strategically. The AI's ability to adapt to player actions made each mission unique and demanding. Joint Task Force was one of the first games to feature dynamic weather conditions and day-night cycles. These environmental factors affected gameplay by influencing visibility, unit performance, and strategic options. Players had to account for these changes, adding an extra layer of complexity to their planning. The game included ethical dilemmas that required players to make difficult choices. These decisions often had significant consequences, affecting mission outcomes and the broader narrative. This feature emphasized the moral complexities of modern warfare and encouraged players to consider the human impact of their actions. In addition to its single-player campaign, Joint Task Force offered robust multiplayer options. Players could compete against each other in skirmishes or team up in cooperative missions. The multiplayer mode extended the game's replayability and fostered a dedicated community of players. The game's developers were proactive in engaging with the community. They released modding tools that allowed players to create their own content, including new missions and scenarios. This support for user-generated content helped sustain the game's popularity long after its initial release. Upon its release, Joint Task Force received generally positive reviews from critics. It was praised for its realistic approach, innovative gameplay mechanics, and engaging storyline. While some reviewers noted minor technical issues, the overall reception was favorable, and the game quickly gained a dedicated following. Joint Task Force has left a lasting legacy in the real-time tactics genre. Its emphasis on realism and tactical depth influenced subsequent games, and it remains a beloved title among strategy enthusiasts. The game's innovative features, such as destructible environments and ethical decision-making, set a new standard for what RTS games could achieve. Joint Task Force stands as a testament to the dedication and creativity of its developers. By combining realistic military tactics, engaging gameplay, and thought-provoking themes, Mythos Entertainment and HD Publishing created a game that continues to be celebrated by the gaming community. As we reflect on the impact and legacy of JTF, it's clear that it remains a cornerstone of tactical gaming, inspiring future generations of developers and players alike. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the world of Joint Task Force. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow strategy game enthusiasts. Until next time, keep strategizing and stay tuned for more deep dives into the games we love.